Hello everyone and welcome back to Soul Stained Ink. My name is Beth and this will be a rant video. I fully intended to come on here and tell you all about the books I've been reading, will continue to read, blah, blah, blah. However, as most of you know, I am a PhD student. I'm actually 4 classes and 2 anyway, I'm about 2.5 semesters away from taking my exams and beginning my journey just writing my thesis. But one of the courses I'm taking this semester is all about world literature, right? And so this week specifically, we are reading a short story by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is called A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. My rant is not about that. Love Marquez. Love Marquez's works. He's fabulous. In fact, my final essay, which comes into play here, my final essay for this course is comparing A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings to The Wild Book by Juan Fierro, who is a Mexican author. Okay. And they both deal in the marvelous real. Lo real marveloso. I have said that terribly. If you speak it as Spanish, I am so sorry. I do try, I promise. As a little side note here, I've been working on Duolingo, trying to learn Spanish, and then I go to school, and our amazing janitorial staff is all Hispanic and like Spanish as a first language, Mexican, and they laugh at me and then tell me how to say it for where they're from and where we are from here in Texas. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that most people apparently see the marvelous real and magical realism as the same thing, which has become painfully obvious during our discussions this week over Marquez and this short story. The problem here is that I have done vast amounts of research over the last couple of months on the marvelous real. And the thing is, magical realism is all about living in the real world, and then something happens and you're trying to understand, like, is it magic? Is it something other, something supernatural? Trying to find a logical explanation for it with all of the actual reality that is happening around you. This is completely out of place. Like, what is happening? That is European magical realism. That is what we call magical realism. And it borders with fantasy in a lot of ways. So one of my classmates compared this story to Harry Potter, about how reality and everything is mixed together. I've said Harry Potter, and now Melody Raylan is going to go watch it. We love it around here. But while Harry Potter is more fantasy than magical realism, it does have a lot of those elements, right? And while I appreciate that comparison, the marvelous real is how Latin American authors write. It was coined for Latin American authors, but if you're looking at basically any Latin country author, they write with the marvelous real. So while magical realism is amazing, it is very European. The marvelous real is very Latin American. And that is because these cultures, and it's not just the Latin cultures, there are a multitude of other cultures who still hold on to these traditions that involve a lot of myth and the supernatural being a part of the everyday. So the marvelous real focuses on that. Okay, we are not going, oh, here's an everyday life, and then what is that? In marvelous real text, it is very, very, very common to see a ghost, a god or goddess, a mythological creature manifest into the real world, and people treat it like, oh, Coyote just showed up, or oh wow, this pre-Columbian goddess has appeared in the middle of the night to talk to me about why I'm so angry at my parents. And then they move on. They have the discussion. They figure out what needs to happen. and they have to balance whatever this supernatural thing is with their real life, and they treat them as equal things. Like, this is important, but also the math test is important, and so we have to balance them out. And it's not trying to relegate this is supernatural or this didn't really happen. It is making sure that both things are taken care of. While in magical realism, it is very much like, I am going to ignore all of the other things I need to do and focus on this thing and figure out what this thing is. In the marvelous real, it is a combination. We are working the supernatural and the natural together because that is how life is. It is very much based off of the traditions and belief systems of these peoples who have managed to bring those traditions and beliefs down through all of these ages. Whereas the European format of magical realism, this is the people who accused people of being witches and tried to burn them at the stake, sometimes succeeding at burning them at the stake, versus the people who went to the healer often and with purpose. Um, so it is balancing the beliefs, it is balancing the tradition and the culture with the everyday in 2024 or whenever the piece was written. And so while they are very, very similar, and they are two parts of the same wonderful magical whole, they are very different in that magical realism sets that supernatural, not normal thing to the side and kind of goes, what is happening? What is this? Whereas magical realism, or I'm sorry, whereas the marvelous real does not do what magical realism does. The marvelous real says, what is this? Oh, it's just my ancestors. Cool beans. Hey, great, 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 great grandma who has been dead for a couple hundred years. I'm going to need you to put a pin in that because I have to study. Do you know anything about the area of a triangle? Cool. Can you help me with that? And then we'll talk about your missing recipe book that I'll find at the bottom of a well in watertight containers, magically preserved for us. Thanks. Um, so anyway, the whole reason for this rant is, like I said, that everyone in class, like, they read the same article on the Marvelous Reel that I did for the class, but I've read vast amounts in the last couple of months, and they are all treating magical realism as what Gabriel Garcia Marquez writes in, traffics in, and it is not. He very much traffics in the work of the Marvelous Reel. And while it is kind of a small distinction, it is still a very, very important distinction. And I wanted to get that out before I ranted on top of the 17 other people in that class and, made a name for myself for being difficult. I am difficult, but I try not to let them know. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. I hope that you enjoyed my little rant, that maybe I learned you something. If you would like to learn more about it, you can search The Marvelous Reel, look for Alejandro Carpentier. He is the one who coined the phrase The Marvelous Reel to set what Latin American authors do apart from the discussion of magical realism, because it is, in fact, very different. Something, if you don't like Marquez or you haven't read any Marquez, I would highly suggest you read Marquez. But something to note is that they write it as being equal. And so a lot of people think that they are treating it as not being crazy or extra, like it's all kind of monotonous and it might simplify matters, but it doesn't really. It is just a very cultural way of looking at things. So if you want to read some books like that, obviously Gabriel Garcia Marquez. If you want to read a middle grade book like that, Juan Villoro's The Wild Book is fabulous. That is what I am comparing the short story to, is that middle grade novel. Absolutely loved it. It's just also even killed, and then it's like the books rearrange themselves. What? But it's not a surprise to them because they do it. Anyway, those are great. Hold on a second. The works of Carlos Ruiz Zafón are also considered to be The Marvelous Real, and he is one of my favorite authors of all time. Every time I think about his works, I am saddened by the fact that he will not be writing anymore because he passed away last year. I'm trying to think of, oh, like Water for Chocolate. That's not the one I was trying to think of, but that is, in fact, another one that is very much a Marvelous Real book. I'm trying to think of one that was super popular a couple of years ago on BookTube, and this girl went to her fiance's home, was living with like a distant cousin, and is engaged um, up on the side of a hill, and her family like runs a gold mine, and there's like mold on the walls, and this guy is constantly being reborn, or I don't know how to describe it. I read it for class a couple of years ago and I really loved it. And I couldn't find my copy of it when I told you to hold on a minute ago. I paused and like looked for my copy. Couldn't find it. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's got like a green cover, and yeah, everything had a green cover a couple of years ago with snakes. Um, but anyway, those are some Marvelous Real pieces. If you would like to check them out, like I said, Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Carlos Ruiz Zafon are two like big names in the Marvelous Real Society. And if you have not read anything by either of them, I highly suggest that you do. I really wish I could come up with the name of that book. But anyway, I've been babbling at you for a little bit too long now. So let me know if you have any suggestions for the Marvelous Real. If I taught you something about the difference between the Marvelous Real and magical realism, or about either one of them at all. If you would like to know more about what I'm working on comparing those two stories, or about the other conference paper, article, essay I'm writing, which is about anthropomorphism and penguins, I would love to let you know more about those. If you'd like to hear it, let me know down in the comment section down below. Come talk to me about your takeaway on magical realism versus the Marvelous Real. And until next time, stay safe out there, guys.